G'day, Steve here, Woodworking Masterclass. Welcome to the workshop, and if you didn't just see the video I just did, which is how to fill a glue bottle up, check it out there. I was impressed and I just had to share it. But these chopping boards, now I think it was a year ago, I did a video on how to do a variegated chopping board using hand plane. I've been asked to make a few boards up for somebody, which really isn't my forte. I much prefer making furniture. But I thought, I've done a couple of them. There's a couple of ideas that you might like, and if you've got a thicknesser, it'll make life so much easier. What I've done is grab some scrap timber that, again, literally was going to be thrown out. Nothing super special. Some of it's got splits in it, some of it's got cracks in it, some of it's got inclusions on the end, but it doesn't matter. Instead of having a variegated board or just one timber all the way through, which is still very nice, here's a way you can just add a little bit of pizzazz, if you like, or give it a little bit of a brighten up, or make something slightly different. If you've got odd bits of veneer, now if this veneer is, in fact this veneer is 580, so I'll use 580. Grab one of the sizes bits of timber, place it onto the veneer like that, and make sure there's a bit of a gap showing on this side. 3/16, quarter inch, 6mm, something like that. And then with a knife, slice down. So you've got a strip. Work out how many pieces of timber you're going to use. In this case I've got 15 timbers, so I want 14 slices of this veneer. And I'm going to put a piece of veneer between each piece of timber. All right, now I've got, might have a couple over 14 there, but all the strips. Now actually what I might do at this stage is just dock these to length. Work out how you want it to look if it's a variegated timber like this one is. Now to gluing up. Several ways you can do it. I'll show you 3 ways. The first way is to glue it up in sections. Now I double glue with this, that's why I use a lot of glue. And by double gluing, I mean mark your outside, so that's an outside one. In fact, if you look here, you can see it's got little marks on the outside. That doesn't matter because when I've finished, I'm going to put a round over bit with a router all over it. Just put your glue on. Now you can use a brush if you like with this, or an applicator or a spreader. I find fingers are just as quick, especially, you know you're going to get messy doing this job. Grab a piece of veneer, lay it over the top. Spread glue over that. Now because the veneer is a bit shorter than timber, make sure all the veneer ends up at one end of the board. Now peel that off and glue it so the surface you've just glued goes on the surface that you've glued on the timber. And you'll see there's some residue glue here. That's fine, I always put just a little bit more on, just to make sure I've got good coverage. And be pretty generous with the glue and also the hangover. So you'll see I've got a bit of veneer hanging over on both sides of that. Grab the next stick, same thing, on top of the veneer. Try to keep these ends as square as possible too. The same distance away, don't sort of have them like that. Because if you do, that's going to shorten the length of your chopping board considerably. Now depending how fast you work, you could possibly get the whole board glued up in one hit, but I find that's sometimes a little bit daunting because you'll find the bits that you started with have started to go off before you've actually got the last pieces glued up. So the alternative I offer is, if we've got 15 pieces in this board, divide it into 5, and we'll do 5 pieces. You can tell, and I guess it would differ on the glue that you're using and also what the weather's doing as to how quickly the glue will go off. This is a waterproof PVA. I'm not using hide glue on this for several reasons. One, it would go off too quickly, but the other thing is it's not waterproof either, whereas a chopping board gets washed quite a few times in its life. If you can, it's a good idea, I haven't been doing it, but to line all the grain up so all the grain's going in the right direction. But this is going to be put through a thicknesser, and this particular timber isn't too bad when it goes through the thicknesser. And if you don't like getting messy, don't attempt this job. But for the small amount of mess, I think the finished product is quite rewarding. Now this one, I'm only going to glue one side. Now you can see that's a clump of 5. And because the veneer is sticking out, it's very hard to line up. Providing we've got one edge that's reasonably flat, like that one is, we've got a chance. And just get your clamps. I would start in the middle, light pressure. Just push all these down so you can get it as flat as you can on the bottom, and the veneer will be flat too. Be careful when you're using these clamps and you're screwing it up. You can sometimes knock the bottom out. And just to make it easier on the cleanup, just on this one surface, just wipe off a lot of the excess glue that's there. All right, now that's not too bad. And you can see the pine veneer is showing through in each one. Now with this, I'll just pop it down here to dry, and I'll show you another method. If you've got sash clamps, this sometimes is a little bit quicker, and it is definitely easier to clamp up than using the F clamps. But if you've only got F clamps, use F clamps. So once you've got your timber off, work out which is the outside piece, which I think I'll have as that piece. And then you just lay them all out flat. This way you can do a few at a time. I wouldn't put glue all over them, just the first few. Spread it out like so. Kids would love doing this. I'm sure they would. I know my grandkids would. Again, piece of veneer, pop it down. Again, keep it up to one end of the chopping board. Veneer poking out each side. Thin coat there. And the next one over on it. See, this is a fair bit quicker. Now on the one that we're going to have to join to that other block, I'm going to put just another piece of timber there, because I don't want to mark this piece here, because it's going to go up against the other piece when we put that other section on. On the end here, I don't care if I mark it very much, because it's the outside of the board and I'm going to dress that anyway. And that's pretty good, and you can see the veneer coming through on each one. So again, let's get a rag and just clean some of that excess glue off. So wipe all the glue off, because you really don't want great big dobs of glue when you're using the thicknesser. But I will show you a way you can use the thicknesser even if it has got great big lumps of glue on it. One more clamp over the top. That looks pretty all right. So what I'll do is leave it down here with the other one for a little bit. And then I'll show you what I think is one of the nicest clamping systems out. I've recently got some for the shed, and I've also invested in some for the new show, Room for Woodwork.